What's going on, everybody? And welcome back to the channel. So today I am joined by D.W. Ross. He's a fantasy author. He actually just had his debut come out last year, but we're here to talk a little bit about it, a little bit to talk about the sequel, and just kind of what we can expect in the rest of his series called the Onyxborn Chronicle. But how you doing today?
I'm really good. Went to the gym on my lunch break. Now I'm here. So yeah, I'm in that wave. I was saying before we started of not really knowing what time it is and just kind of coasting towards the end of my day.
Yeah. No, I hear you. Yeah, I mean, I seriously think there's like just a gap between like when I drop my daughter off and like when my wife gets like picks her up and brings her home. That like I just lose all sense of like what time is, because like it gets so sucked into work. I do these chats which are great, but like time just kind of like just goes. Like you sit there and you think you've been talking for 10 minutes and 45 minutes goes by and you're like, holy crap, I still have stuff I've got to do today.
Yeah.
But then you bring a kid into the mix and it's like time almost feels like it stands still sometimes, like when they're awake, but like when they're asleep it's just and they're awake again.
Yeah. And the thing is as well, because you have so much sometimes is like breathe or look at them when they're napping and you're not touching them and they wake up and you're like, so you really need to be cautious, don't you? Whenever they're napping, it's like one tiny sound could just ruin your day or theirs.
Yeah. Oh yeah, dude. Like it's like my wife like will look at her on the our daughter on the monitor and she goes, "Oh, don't you just like want to just like go snuggle up next to her in the crib?" I'm like, "No, I really don't. I actually really enjoy sleeping. Like I love like my bed."
Yeah.
I mean, as much as adorable as it is, and like I'm good. Like I think we'll wait till she's like 2 or 3 and then maybe we'll think about doing that. But
Yeah, I get that.
I'm still kind of in the selfish stage.
Yeah.
So what's it like being a new dad? I mean, I know I've given you a couple of pointers, but I mean there's a lot of information out there. So
Yeah, it's pretty good. To be honest, I think the best advice anyone ever gave me was wing it and just kind of go with the flow of like what your baby wants and what your baby does. And um, I'm lucky enough to still be working from home, like in my 9 to 5. So I get to see it a lot, which is, I mean, circumstances aside, nobody wants a pandemic. But now that everything's going on, like I'm really thankful that I get this like time with my daughter and my wife for that matter. But yeah, being a new dad is really cool. I almost felt like prep for it. I'm the oldest of 4. So I've got a couple of siblings. I watched them grow up. So I kind of felt prepped and ready to be a dad as well. So
I gotcha. Yeah, they say that you're never really ready to have a kid, and it's true. I mean, you are in like some sense. Like you're
yeah.
like, I think I can do this. Like I've kept pets alive. Like that was the thing. Like we got like a puppy, like the year before my wife got pregnant, and we're like, yeah, we can totally do this. The dog's great, loves us. So like a baby will do the same thing, right? It's like no, dog's a little bit smarter for like a little while and can like do things, whereas a baby, you know, they're great, but like they don't do a whole lot for a while. And so
No.
and they're really, especially like if they're still feeding and stuff, the wife is like 100% all the time. Dad's just kind of like over to the side. Dad's like, hey, can you hold her real quick while I go do this?
Yeah, that's definitely the balancing act I'm trying to find is like when I'm like, I'm going to go up and do writing for an hour, but then I feel guilty because I'm like leaving like or with my wife, whereas sometimes she's like attached to my wife, if you know what I mean. And like I feel guilty because there's just we I can't do anything about that. If she wants to feed, she wants to feed. But then when she doesn't, I'm like, no, give me her. You go take a break, have a bath, relax. But then sometimes I'm like, I know I need to get this chapter done. I know I
Yeah.
need to do it.
Yeah, and my daughter's 15 months now, so like we thought she was going to really kind of balance out like who she wanted to like hang out with more during the day, which I mean she sees me a lot because I mean I'm still working from home and I've been working from home her entire life, which I don't, it's probably not going to change. Like who knows what next year is going to look like, but I think remote's going to be the thing. But like there'll be times like my wife gets home and she's like on her, and then but it makes sense. She teaches, so she's like in the classroom all day, so she doesn't see her. And then weekends are like all for her. I'm like, you know what? That actually works great for me because I love watching football on the weekends. So like, so I was like, I'll hang out with her all week. You hang out with her when you get home and on the weekends. We're good. And if she decides she wants to switch, she can watch football with me. She loves football. So
So there's the first segue. Who's your team?
So I graduated from Auburn. So
Oh,
I'm an Auburn
amazing.
Tigers fan. But then I mean, now NFL started back up, but I'm a Steelers fan in the NFL. So I got my Saturdays and Sundays covered. So it's
Yeah,
nice.
perfect. It's awesome.
Yeah, but so let's kind of rewind a little bit. I want to know about young Mr. Ross. What did you do a lot growing up? Did you write when you were growing up? Did you read growing up? And like who were maybe some of your favorite authors?
Writing and reading, yeah, but like I never really took it seriously. So I went to college over here and I wanted to do journalism, and ideally I wanted to be a music journalist. So that was like my two kind of passions. And then life hit me really hard at around about 20, and I decided I didn't want to do that anymore. I wanted to get a full-time job, make money, and just kind of do that instead. So I kind of did that and like went like job to job, and like to be honest, I completely stopped thinking about the concept of writing, whether it be like fiction or journalistic writing. I just totally thought that was old me, no longer me. And then I actually started playing Dungeons and Dragons,
Hey,
and it led me to start creating backstories and character stories. And I was like, oh, I really, really like doing this. So I was like, I'm going to start DMing. I was like, okay, cool, go with that. And then I started creating this world, and it was getting like more and more complex. It was like at the beginnings of a spider web, and then it was just like this, and there was like cities, worlds, countries, different types of people, and I was like, I need to start writing a book. And to be honest, it was the end of 2019. I started writing Code from the North, and then I just didn't really look back. Like I knew I had the kind of the bug and everything. Once I had it, I was like, I want to write this, even if it's just for me. And it felt like I was like 19 again, and I was like writing about fun stuff and like cool stuff. And then yeah, that was
interesting.
a
It's
whirlwind
kind of it's
period.
kind of cool because I talked to Ryan Cahill a little while back, and
Yeah,
y'all have different like starts to it, but I feel like y'all wrote really quickly to like write and publish. Like I feel like a lot of authors I talked to was like, oh yeah, I started writing this book like 10 years ago. I started writing this book 6 years ago, 8 years ago, and then like you and Ryan are like, yeah, I wrote this in like 5 6 months, like no big deal.
yeah,
Published it. It's cool, whatever. Like so what does it take, like how much of a motivation does it take to like write that quickly, or to be able to even have like those off days where like the words just really aren't hitting right, to get something completed so quickly.
yeah. I mean, it's hard because I definitely had those days where I was like bugger this, I'm not doing it,
Mhm.
kind of thing. But I just had to. I kept reading all these books, and I've got like drawers and drawers under my desk of books of how to write and everything, and they were telling me all these things. But the only thing that really struck true was having like an actual process. So I would get up every single day before work at 6 a.m. And before I started at 9 a.m., I would write for 3 hours. And I would just like write and write and write and write. And then I found another piece of advice that was always embrace the delete key. So I would be looking, going, I don't like that. And I'd be like, but that's okay because I can take it out. It doesn't have to be final. It's not a painting. So yeah, that was kind of like my process, just write as much as I possibly could, as quick as I could. And even if there was bits where I was looking at it going, this is shit, this is not good, I still knew it's okay because I can take a day, I can come back to it, I can get feedback from friends. That was a big part of it as well. The reason I got it out so quickly was getting feedback from a couple of different sources, all people who I knew like read fantasy, but like different age groups and things,
Mhm.
to maybe give me different perspectives, like maybe people who'd only read classic fantasy, people who read new fantasy, and then seeing what they think I could do better.
Mm.
I paid for a couple of like beta reads on Fiverr and stuff, but they're not worth the time for me personally. But yeah, once I did it, I just committed. I told everyone I was writing a book, and then because I put it out there, I just felt like shit, I need to do this.
I gotcha. Yeah, that I feel like that's the struggle with maybe not a lot of people, but a lot of people that are trying to write their debut is that they're trying to make it perfect on the first go,
Yeah,
instead of just going just write, and then come back and
yeah,
read through it, proof it, revise it, take some stuff out, or rewrite it. Um,
yeah.
and that's kind of my thing is I've jotted some stuff down, and then I'm just like, gosh, it could be so much better, but that's why I don't get any farther than I am. It's just I was sitting there writing, I was like, this sounds pretty good. It's not great, but it's good. I'll shelve it for now. Instead of
And
like
that's the thing, you'll probably
continue to
share
read
it
it.
for a bit longer now that you've got the wee one, and obviously now the website's doing so good. So, but when you go back to it, just wing it. Write a
Yeah.
first draft, get to the end, and then just start picking it apart. Because then at least you've got the beginning and the end. Because like truth be told, until the Darkest Dusk was finished, I didn't know how this book ended, as in the
Mm.
series. I had no idea how the series ended. It only
Eh.
really came to me like about 2 or 3 months ago. So just as I was releasing the Darkest Dusk, I was like, oh, that's how it ends. Perfect.
So what you're telling me is you did not plot.
Huh. No, that was another
Hey, I
thing
mean,
in the
it
book.
works for
Was
you.
like,
It does not work for a lot of people. There are some
yeah,
people
I
that are like,
can't plot
yeah,
to
I
save
try
my
to
life.
wing it, but I at least plot the beginning, middle, and end, and then I'll wing something in between, and hopefully the dots match. But
Yeah,
people just like wing it and they go, oh yeah, that's how it ends.
yeah. Honestly, and then like my wife is like the only person who actually knows how it ends because she categorically did not like fantasy. But I said to her, like, if I write this, I really need you to read it because you are an honest critic and you will tell me exactly how it is. So she read it and she ended up liking Cold from the North. At least she tells me she likes it. She read The Darkest Dusk, she liked it, but I had to like run the end of like book three by her to make sure. And she was like, oh yeah, that works. And I was like, oh thank God. Like if I can convince like a non-fantasy person that this is an okay ending, then but yeah, just wing it. Honestly, go back and just wing it. This is going to be what I'm going to bug you about every single time we interact is keep going, do it, write a bit.
Now, I will say your wife is technically contractually obligated to say that she likes
Exactly.
something, but at the same time, she's also obligated to be honest. So
Exactly.
hopefully, you're like two for two in that area because
Well, it's
she
the whole for
could
richer
she
for
could be like,
poor.
yeah, it's great, and then behind you like,
Yeah, yeah.
no. So tell me what did you read when you were growing up, and have you continued reading the same things? Have you changed genres? Do you have any favorite authors that you read growing up that you still read today?
Yeah, so reading growing up, I was more into like dystopian fiction. I really loved the idea of like, I think I was obsessed with the end of the world. So I would really like the idea of what does that look like, this post-apocalyptic or dystopian kind of stuff. That was like all I read and all I sought out until I was in like my mid-20s. And I
Mhm.
think I consumed fantasy a lot in movies because I don't know, I wasn't really going into Waterstones and looking at the fantasy bit, and the places I shop weren't selling a lot of fantasy.
Mhm.
And to be honest, it was Shadow of What Was Lost by James Islington. When I got that, it changed absolutely everything. I was reading it and I mean, I know that book gets mixed reviews, but for me, I was reading it going, oh, this is a journey, this is a story. And I consumed those three books so quickly, and then it just opened me up. And around the same time, I was getting into John Gwynne, I was getting into Joe Abercrombie, and then it just does this. And
Oh
then
yeah.
I think when I started like looking at actual Twitter and when I decided to do this myself, that was really when it got opened up to a lot of different avenues because that then showed me all the different types of fantasy, where you could get it, how you could get it, whether it be self-published or traditional. There's so much out there. I was like, this is incredible because it is. I find hard to find good like post-apocalyptic or dystopian fiction. Like they're about a dime a dozen.
Mhm.
Whereas with fantasy, there's so much good stuff out there.
Yeah.
And I mean, and the good thing is as well, people recommend books and good books. I mean, even if I look over it like my shelf just now, it's just so good. Like,
Yeah, no, I can't like walk in my office and be like, oh yeah, I really need to get to that one, and it's a different book every day. And then I
mm,
look at my Kindle and I go, holy crap, why does it not stop? Like, I just have so many just pages of books that I've like been meaning to get to. But I was kind of the same way, like maybe like middle high school. It was kind of like when Hunger Games coming out, Divergent was coming out, all
yeah,
that kind of
yeah.
stuff. And so like Hunger Games is pretty big. The movies came out and everybody got excited about them. But I would look at fantasy, and honestly, I even looked at like Stephen King. Just like the books were just so thick, and I just couldn't like comprehend finding the time to read them. Because I mean, when you're in high school, you also, not everybody, but you have sports, you have extracurriculars that you do, you've got homework, you've got tests to study for and stuff. And I was like, I need something that can just like take my mind off for half an hour at a
Yeah.
time a day. Because like you really didn't read. Maybe some people did. I'm sure a lot of people did, but you didn't really read and devour books, I guess, as much when you were younger as maybe you do now. Because
No.
you kind of could just like it's just something to turn your mind off. Now it's like I need to find out what freaking happens here. And
Yeah.
so I've got to get to the end of this 800-page epic. And oh wait, there's 5 more books I have to read. Holy crap.
Because
And
it's
now
that
we
way.
have audiobooks, and that's like a
Oh,
lifesaver.
I love that. I was actually just looking over because I have like my copy of The Stand somewhere.
Mhm.
I'm gonna jump off camera quick and get it because when you were saying about it being like a tome,
Yeah.
so you're absolutely right. So when I got this, I think I got it from my granddad, but it was so intimidating, and the text was so small.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And then I remember, how am I going to do this? And then you just get sucked in. Like, I don't know if you have you ever read this?
Mm-mm.
Oh, it's incredible.
I mean, I
It's
need to. Like, I have like multiple copies. I actually have it like the Barnes and Noble like collector's edition, like on its way today. Because I wanted to. So I have a confession to make. I'm really enjoying Empire of the Vampire by Jay Kristoff.
I've heard so many
I'm
good things.
about halfway through the audio, and I had already ordered a US copy and a UK copy because I really like the covers. And of
Yeah.
course, it sounded great. But like because I've enjoyed it so much, I had to get the Barnes and Noble special editions. Like it's all red, and in order to get free shipping, I had to buy something else. So I was
Yeah.
like, "What special editions do they have?" And they have like a new edition of The Stand, and I was like, "I'll get that." So it comes today. So I'm a little excited. So I'll send you a picture of it when
Yeah, please do. And then
I have it.
and I think this is like the uncut one. So let me look at the page count.
Oh, but it's like stupid.
It's so right to the last page, 1,421 pages. Like no joke. I'll cover this for the sake of spoilers, but one.
Good night.
So
Jeez. See, I said the same thing about like A Song of Ice and Fire. My dad had bought all the mass market paperbacks, and
mhm.
like, and it would take him a while to read them, but like he is also retired and he has really nothing else to do, so he can just read all day, which I'm
Yeah,
so jealous. I wish I could do
I'm
that.
ready for
I've
that.
got about, I don't know, 40 more years.
Yeah, no, I'm the same as you. I'm like, when if I ever get there, I wonder what my TBR will look like. But
Yeah. Oh gosh.
I'll probably still be books from this year.
Yeah, yeah, you'll still have books from 5 years ago, like when you started kind of collecting books.
Like tagging the author, like doesn't even Twitter anymore. You're just tagging like some self-published author. Like, I really enjoyed your work. He's like, that's not me anymore.
No, at that point, it's just be like telepathy. It'll just be like able to tell them. It's like, oh, somebody else took my book. Great.
A virtual thumbs up.
Yeah. No, but like, yeah, those books, I don't know the exact page counts, but I know they're around 1,000, if not more, each book. And I just saw those in the tiny writing, and I go, holy crap, no. And I said that about Lord of the Rings too. Like when
Yeah.
because I got like I saw the movies first, then I got the books because I was like, I'm totally gonna read these, and then like I got them and I looked at them and I go, there's no way I'm gonna read these. And, like just
Crazy
shelved
when
them.
you're that age, isn't it? When you're that age and like text size puts you off. Like text size and margins was always, I was like, why is it like edge to edge? This is
Why
intimidating.
can't this all be conversation and have individual illustrations? Like why?
Exactly. Just give me a comic.
I need a break.
Yeah.
Why can't these chapters let me 5 pages apiece?
Oh, oh, the dream. Short
I
chapter,
know,
short
man.
choppy.
Oh gosh, I miss those days.
I
Yeah,
know.
because now it's like every chapter's 30 pages, 20, 30
Yeah, I was
pages, and you're
like,
like, gosh, I have to get to the end of this before I can say I'm done for the day or done for the evening. And then you fall asleep like 10 more words in.
I'm so guilty. Like I could be reading in the middle of the day in a heat wave and I'll still fall asleep
Oh yeah.
because it's it's
I don't know what it is. Like I feel like my eyes all of a sudden aged 40 years when I had a kid. Because like I can't read at night anymore. Like I'll have my Kindle up and I get like 2 pages in and I'm like, I need to go to sleep. And it's 9 o'clock. Like I just can't do it anymore. And honestly, it happens during the day too. I don't know if it's the way I sit, if I slouch too much when I read, or
Yeah.
if I need glasses. I'm hoping that's not the case. but I just find that like audiobooks are better, but I can't sit still and listen to an audiobook. I have to be doing something or
Yeah,
otherwise
like
I just wander. I don't know what it is. Why are our brains wired so weirdly?
yeah,
Like,
because if
well,
I sit and have an audiobook on, then I start doing like, do you know
yeah,
what I mean? I
yeah, I'm
can't,
like moving, and if like the TV's on and paying attention to it, even though I can't hear it, like
yeah.
I don't understand like why our brains are wired that way. But yeah, but like I could be like washing dishes, vacuuming, mowing the lawn, anything like that.
Okay.
Like I could like almost tell you word for word what happened.
Yeah, I like if you pair them with a monotonous task, it's so good. But yeah,
No,
you're
so I
right.
try to keep myself so busy. My wife's like, "Can you not just sit down?" I'm like, "No, I have to
No,
finish this
I
book, and the only way I can do that is to clean the house." So,
I'm gonna start doing that. That'll get me
yeah,
some good points. Yeah.
I'm telling
Okay,
you,
cool.
yeah, man. Wife's happy, you're happy. You get you're slowly combing down your TBR until it piles back up. Yeah, I'm telling you, if you take a week off from reading, like your TBR like automatically adds like 10 or 15 book.
It's
It's
good.
we're just not gonna be able to read everything, and
Mm-mm.
it's just not gonna happen. So we've talked about you growing up. We talked about your reading. We've talked a little bit about who you read growing up. Um, who would you say, I guess, were your biggest influences to write your debut and now your sequel and the third book that's coming up?
Fair question. I'm going to be honest. It's going to just go back to James Islington again. I think when I read that trilogy and just everything it was like, there's definitely bits where I read it and I'm like, hmm. Do you know what I mean? But the bits that got me were like, oh, I'd really love to try my hand at this.
Mm,
And then I think as I was doing that, and then when I started reading more authors just before I started writing, people, and I know people sometimes say like, if like Cold from the North for fans of John Gwynne, which is the biggest compliment in the entire world. But reading his stuff, you were just like, this is like a whole other level. This
mm,
is this is like I'm there, I'm in a shield wall, I'm fighting, I have a pet wolf. Do you know what I mean? I am literally everything in this because I can feel it. And it was stuff like that that I was like, not only do I need to be better, but it was stuff like that that meant, oh, do it, write it, have fun, kind of thing. And John was actually one of the first people I ever reached out to on Twitter. And it was just like a meaningless, like, hey, hi, hello kind of thing. But he was really good with his advice. And yeah, like he just seems like a very nice person. I've never
oh
obviously
yeah.
met other than like the Twitter exchanges and seen him in amazing things. But yeah, he was definitely an inspiration. And dialogue wise, I absolutely love reading Joe Abercrombie
Mm,
purely because whenever you see him writing, I'm just like, oh, that character's such an asshole. I love it. And you can tell. And he, I think, writes characters better than anyone else. So, like, when you read characters like Glocka and stuff, you feel every pain in his bones that he has when he climbs stairs and like the thoughts in his head when he's looking at someone, he's breaking them down. Like, I was like, I need to think about things like this. So, loads of different places and sources. I'd say like a new inspiration or not idol, idol's probably the wrong word, but ML Spencer is
mm.
phenomenal. I just finished Dragon Mage a couple of weeks ago and it was fantastic. Like everything I was reading, and I think the way that she wrote the main character was, I'm not going to say too much for the worry of spoilers, but that, I mean, I'm calling it now, Spiffbo winner. It's got to
Yeah,
be.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Yeah, yeah. It's just it's so good, and it's one of those like really big chunk books, but like just kind of flies by. Um,
Yeah, like I was intimidated when I looked at the page count. I was like, geez, but you don't notice it. You
mm-mm.
just don't when you're getting to certain bits. Like it never really lulls, which I found really rare. I was like, okay, so where's it gonna slow down? And it didn't. It kept me
Yeah,
hooked the whole time.
yeah, yeah, and I've over the years have found that, and that's one reason why I love fantasy so much, and science fiction to a degree, depending on kind of where you find, because science fiction you've got a lot of subgenres. I mean, you got military,
Yeah,
you've got space opera. You just kind of have to find where you like it so much. But um if I can get invested in a character super early on, then I know I'm gonna enjoy at least their journey. I might not like every aspect of the book, but coming back to your Gwen or Abercrombie, I mean Spencer, um like I shouldn't, but like I loved Glocta, and so like every
Oh,
time a scene with him would come up, like I automatically tuned my ears to it. I mean, I
100%.
I love Logan. He's great. I
Every,
honestly really like Baez, even though nobody really likes him, but I love Baez. But yeah, it all comes back to I enjoy those characters so much, and so I enjoy his writing so much. And even with Gwen, especially in Shadow of the Gods, like you feel so much for his characters in that book, and
Mhm.
like it just made me like binge it so quickly just because like I want to know what happens. But if I'm not invested, it makes it a little more of a slog. It makes it to where I'm not going to finish it as quick. But yeah, I mean, you named a few authors that like are like the pinnacle of like character creation for sure.
Yeah, and that's it. And like, I don't want to be one of those people that pure name drops random people and be like, this is my inspiration and try and be like too niche. But to be honest, like, there's a reason like those people are some of the best in the game, and it's because they write stuff that's captivating. And yeah, it's hard not to be inspired like by pretty much everything I read. Like I will always be reading anyone and be like, oh, that's quite cool. Like I like how they did that or something. But like though like Gwen Abercrombie in particular, and then Emil Spencer recently have just completely blown me away. Like I totally fanboyed and messaged Emil Spencer and was like, "I'm so sorry to bother you, but that was amazing." And she was just really really nice and was like, "Thank you so much." And I was just like, "That was incredible." So
Yeah,
yeah,
yeah, and I find this kind of comes from reading a lot of self pub, but even with traditional now, I find I really enjoy stories. Like I enjoy stories even more when I have somewhat of a relationship with the author.
yeah, yeah,
Whether that's just them responding something that I reach out to them, or having an author chat like we are now, um, or just being able to have like a simple conversation for like a couple of tweets or a couple of DMs or something.
yeah.
It just like means more. And when they when authors retweet you or go, oh my gosh, check this out or whatever like that, it's so awesome. But it really hits home with self pub because you almost just kind of build a friendship with self published writers.
So true.
Whereas you don't always with traditionally published. I don't know if it's a prestige thing or what with some trade authors, but yeah, I've always found that I can easily talk to a self-published author because most of the time they're very much like myself. Granted, I haven't published anything, but it's easy to find the connecting dots between one another and kind of find your common interests and so forth. And generally, it just comes back to we both love fantasy, so let's talk about fantasy.
Yeah. That's it. And I think the whole community aspect of it, like you're right. I have had met so many people where I don't know them, do you know what I mean, other than through Twitter, but like I talk to them, I connect with them every other day, and they're just really, really nice people, like just
Mhm.
super easy to get along with. And Justin Plothead, really, really nice guy,
Yeah.
like super nice person, do you know what I mean? And that's just through a kind of common passion. And I know he said he was going to start writing soon as well, so I'm excited to see what comes of that. But yeah, it's a super cool community.
Yeah, for
It's,
sure.
it's mad. I've literally not come across a single idiot yet, which is
You
rare because
will.
I know. I mean, I see people like sharing people's opinions on maybe really harsh reviews and things. And is there a need to really go in on somebody that hard on Twitter? Not really.
Mm.
I've seen all those, but luckily I've never experienced it firsthand. I mean,
Yeah.
honestly, like one of my favorite things is watching Joe Abercrombie post his 1-star ratings. Because that again, where I'm just like, I know you're this big author, but I just love that you take the time to look at 1 stars and go, oh my god, like that's, I love it. It's
Yeah, yeah, he's like just as snarky as his characters are, which I think is so great.
yeah,
And that's clearly where like all the snark comes from is just from his mind.
I
I
love
mean,
it.
like even like he did a promo video for Wisdom the other day for Orbit where I don't remember exactly what he said, but he's like, they told me I needed to do this. I didn't figure I needed to, but like the book's coming out. It's just like just takes it like all in stride. It's so freaking funny.
It's
But
like that on brand thing where he's like, they're not like obviously football, so I'm like maybe like Marshawn Lynch, like I'm only here so I don't get fined kind of
yeah,
thing.
yeah,
Like, I kind of get
exactly.
that where it's like this rebel, and I'm like, yeah, I love that. Keep
Yeah.
that energy.
Yeah, so but like at the end of the day, like he's just like a regular guy that loves
Yeah,
talking about books and fantasy and stuff. And he's done so many interviews, over the
yeah,
years and so forth. It's just kind of funny to see that. Yeah, he's gotten this big following. Like he could just kind of like be ignoring everybody, but yeah, like you said, he talks about his 1-star reviews. He talks about like his funny 5-star reviews that make absolutely no sense. It's a really fun follow. So let's talk about a little bit about your books though. So Onyxborn Chronicle starts with Cold from the North.
Mhm.
So tell us what is Cold from the North about, and maybe some of your what's your inspiration behind the story.
Cool. So Cold from the North is pretty much just a scene setter, if I'm being honest. A lot happens, but it's like a scene setter for a bigger kind of war, if that makes sense. Long kind of story short, invading force coming from one direction, people must flee. In order to do so, they have to traverse some pretty dangerous stuff and they have to seek some help because one country gets completely obliterated, let's just say. And then it's all about forging alliances, finding out the kind of motives behind this invasion, finding out it's actually a lot more sinister than just your average war, and then working out collectively how they are going to stop it. Along the way, there's obviously some magic thrown in. Magic systems pretty loose. When you read it, you'll understand. But the magic system was just thrown in. Like, as I've said, I wing it a lot. Uh, but ultimately it's all about connecting paths and how we've got this one kind of main character who really connects all the dots, and it's just how basically his story unfolding with an ensemble of other characters who I wanted to create so that my main character didn't have all the cool stuff. I wanted like a wee ensemble of other people who did things, but Ogolf is very much like the conduit. He's very much the driving factor.
Okay. So, what was it that made you, I guess, write a Viking fantasy versus any of the other types of fantasy that you could have written?
If you honest, God's honest truth, I was rewatching Vikings when I
Love
started
that
writing.
show.
Like, there's
So
no
good.
other way to put it. Like, people have been like, "Where did you get this? Where did you get that?" If you read the first iteration of what Cold from the North almost was, I ripped off a Blood Eagle scene. Do you know what I mean? There was lots where it was a lot more Vikingy, and it was a lot more about raiding parties and stuff. And I was like, "No, let's make it bigger." But I kept some of the elements, like some of the names, like Olaf Harlsbane sounds very like Norse.
Oh yeah.
Broadheim, do you know what I mean? Like all these places and stuff and pockets of places were definitely just derived from the fact I was obsessed with Vikings at the time.
I mean, I'm still obsessed with it. I mean,
Same, I'm on
obsessed
like
with
my
it. Last Kingdom, like, bring it
oh,
on.
The Last Kingdom is another one I was watching, like rewatching when I was writing. Like I'd have that on the background while I worked and stuff, and it was just like the battle scenes and stuff. And to be honest, I think if I thought about what Olgoth looked like, it would probably be. Nah, I think it's probably more. It's so hard. I still don't know what he looks like. I've never even drawn him. Probably more Ragnarok, which is obviously but a lot younger.
I
Um,
gotcha.
but oh, it's hard. I still don't know what he looks like. I don't know what any of my characters look like except the bad guys.
Eventually, you have to do a special edition that has illustrations, and you can
Yeah, well,
finally
we
flesh
like
out.
the first cover. Like I'm looking at the big print I've got. Like my one of my best friends drew for me. The first cover was like Olgoth in the middle and then being attacked by like a bunch of people, and it didn't work as a book cover. But looking at that, like he's got like long brown hair with braids and stuff, and I'm like, that's it. Yeah.
Yeah, see, I'm rewatching A Song of Ice and Fire right now because I'm trying to go through just the first 5 books. I've never gone through all of them, and I've told this like on a couple of podcasts. Like I've been talking about this for probably 2 weeks that I just cannot finish The Feast for Crows. But I decided to go back through the series. So I'm on season 5 now. And it's still good. Like it hasn't really gotten rough yet. And I'm trying to see if a second watch through, if it gets better or if it doesn't. And I think I'm gonna write like a big post about it, like
Oh, I can't wait for
kind of
that.
like books versus the show kind of thing.
Yeah.
But I think the next thing I'll do is I'll probably rewatch. I'm trying to figure out when is the next season of The Last Kingdom come out.
I
It's
think
probably
it's
next.
this. I think it's either is it not later this year or really early next year?
So if it's later this year, I'll definitely watch that first. But I gotta rewatch that and I gotta rewatch Vikings because gosh, they're just so good. And I think all of Vikings I think is on Amazon now, and then you got I
Yeah.
think all of Last Kingdom still on Netflix. So Which I didn't really get into Last Kingdom until I guess right before the last season came out. I watched the entire series like in a week. That was before I had a kid. I did it before I had a kid. So
Yeah,
I
like
actually had time to do that.
it's so easy to binge things when you've got the time.
Yeah.
But I was the same. Like I kind of slept on Last Kingdom for a little while. I think I watched the first episode and I was like, this feels too like Vikings.
Mhm.
And I was watching Vikings like every week at that point. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I was actively watching it. And then I went back and like obviously Uhtred is the man,
Oh
right?
yeah.
So good. And I mean he's also not as morally grey as like your characters in Vikings, which I kind of liked. I felt like I was rooting for the hero for a change. But yeah, watching that all at once was there's just so many good characters in that.
Yeah, like I like you can get behind Uhtred because like you know his motivations and like why he
Yeah.
does things. You don't really get that same sense in Vikings. Like
No.
I mean they like want to raid and like expand and stuff. Like I get it, but like most of those characters like have ulterior motives,
Oh, for
and you
sure.
just
And you
don't
never know
really
who
see
to
them
trust.
until yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah, I got that, but yeah, I don't know if I could do two Viking shows at the same time because I'd just be comparing them too much. So I'm kind of
Yeah.
glad that like I watched them separately because I could really appreciate what both of them brought to the table.
Yeah.
But of course now we've got Wheel of Time come out. We're gonna have Dune coming out next month.
Yeah.
We've got the new Matrix movie. We've got Foundation coming out.
Got The
So
Witcher.
much for the Witch, the new Witcher season. Like there's
Oh,
so much good stuff, and I still gotta like rewatch all the Expanse because I haven't
I'm
finished that
actually
series.
I'm chipping away at that.
Okay, so
Yeah.
you're doing better than I am.
I'm trying, but this is what I was saying to you before we actually started recording. My attention span is shocking. It's so bad.
I find it hard not to have my cell phone like just pushed to the side when I'm trying to do something. So yeah, I get what you're
Hmm.
saying. I'm always like talking to people on Twitter while also like trying to watch something. But
Yeah.
luckily, most of the time I'm watching stuff is rewatching. So I'm like, why do I even pay for like cable? I just
I
rewatch
know
stuff.
either.
I don't watch any new stuff.
Well,
So
I say that, and then like when NFL season, football season rolls around, I
yeah,
need it. Like
yeah.
I need my Saturdays. I need even if I can't watch all the games, I need to be able to record the games, and so yeah, I totally.
Oh yeah, I mean I've got like NFL Sunday Ticket, like they like DirecTV gives it to me for free every year. So like I'm like, oh yeah, I'll watch 8 games at a time. Why not?
Yeah, of course. What else you want to do?
Nobody else does that.
Yeah.
Yeah. So if Cold from the North is kind of a here's what's going on. Tell me a little bit about the Darkest Dusk. So this is book 2 in the Onyxborn Chronicle.
The Darkest Dusk is when kind of shit hits the fan, if you know what I mean. It's when they start realizing, all right, we need to move. This is not just your typical invasion. This isn't going to be your typical war. There's bigger motives that we need to be a direct resistance against, basically. And then there's a couple of things that they need to do in order to actually be able to muster resistance. Kind of all throughout it, you've also got it's more character development, I would say, where some of the characters are getting stronger, some are getting weaker, and you're kind of learning what the melting pot's going to look like. You've got a couple of big battles, a little bit more exploration of the magic system, and then yeah, it kind of culminates in probably the twist I'm most proud of. So yeah, like this is more like let's move this along, and then it's really opening us up in book 3 because book 3 is obviously going to be a culmination because it's the final book, but it really is when I'm throwing everything at the wall. Like I'm just seeing what sticks because I know there's so many different avenues I can go down that I've opened up perfectly for. Like that's what I like. I like a long game, basically. So I like when things are drawn out and then at the last minute you find out something that might have been relevant, but that's been building. So yeah, this is like setting the scene. It's kind of making you question the characters a wee bit more, like who actually has what allegiances, why would they do this? And so that's what I hope it does. That's what I aspire it does. But it's only been out a couple of months, so just waiting. Actually, some of the reviews coming in.
I gotcha. So can you do you have a working title for book 3 yet? And is that going to be the final in the series?
Yeah, I don't really have a working title because the working title I have sucks. Like I posted
It's
on
one of
Twitter
those
the other
things you
day
wrote
that
down and then like you'll come back to you later.
yeah, and I've got a rough idea of what it's going to be called. It's just one of the ones I had was too wordy, so I was like looking at like the covers I have, and like they're obviously going to be the same, and I was like, just anticipating sending like 7 words to my designer and be like, make it work, and it's not going to work. So no, I don't have one at the minute.
Yeah, they keep it between like 3 and 5 words, right?
Yeah, I mean, Cold from the North's a mouthful. The
Yeah.
Darkest Dusk is okay, but then I'm like, I don't know, I'll just one word it. Onyxborn Chronicle. That's it.
Finale.
Yeah, the end. Onyxborn Chronicle #3.
There you go. You have anything you're working on outside of the series, or is it your baby, the thing that you're gonna finish out before you move on to any other projects?
I am currently starting like project 2. I've got like 2 other projects that one is a bit, so I'm Scottish, which you can probably tell.
Had no idea.
I know, just drinking Iron Brew and got a little William Wallace next to my desk. No, I'm kidding on. So because there's loads of like, one of the things I've always read is Scottish history. It's probably one of the things I'm most passionate about is Scottish history and understanding where we came from, why we're like this, why we're part of the United Kingdom, and not to sound too political or anything, but I want to write something that plays more on like my ancestral heritage, if you know what I mean. So rather than thinking about these cold expanses that are maybe more like your Norways, your Denmark, your Icelands, just actually looking like what's on like my back door and going, we've got all the lochs, we've got the Highlands, we've got all these little islands popped about, we've got all these castles, and we're obviously really rich history. So it's actually more playing on that than your kind of Norse vibe. So I've got a 3-book idea that's definitely more of a character journey rather than like, I mean, Cold from the North or Onyxborn takes place over like a month and a half, like in real time. This is going to take over like 10 years.
Oh, wow.
So yeah, so I've drawn the map. I know what the map looks like. I know the regions. I know a main character. I know exactly how it starts, and I know exactly how it ends. I actually semi-plotted this one, so I just need to connect up the dots. And then the other one is because I mentioned I like post-apocalyptic fiction and dystopian fiction. I have this like passion project in my head where I'm basically going to rip off the Warriors, but set it in Glasgow.
Okay.
So,
all right. And I know you mentioned finishing up Dragon Mage by ML Spencer. Have you read anything else recently that you'd recommend?
yeah, I just actually finished The Look of a King by another Swiftboat entrant, Tom Dumbrell. So it's a really short, like snappy read, and it was honestly brilliant. It was also nice getting away from like the big books and just having like a 200 pager and just like, oh, it was really good. Took me a little bit longer to read it, obviously, babies and stuff. But it was brilliant. And Tom's a super nice guy. I would fully recommend it.
Okay.
Yeah, maybe a sleeper for Swiftboat for sure. Really good cover too. And then yeah, I'm not starting reading anything else right now because I am patiently waiting for my broken binding package of Wisdom of Crowds to come through the door, and I'll read that.
There you go. Well, I really appreciate you taking the time to come chat with me. I know we've been meaning to do this for a while, but babies and kids and all that kind of stuff. It does tend to keep you kind of busy. But I'm glad we were
Yeah.
able to finally schedule it and so forth. But everybody, again, Dito's got out the Onyxborn Chronicle. So Cold from the North is book 1, and the Darkest Dusk is book 2, and we'll be waiting for that snappy title for book 3, hopefully coming soon. So if you like Viking inspired fantasy, check it out. Like I said, a lot of reviewers have said it reads like John Gwen. So if you're a John Gwen fan, there you go. There's your next read. So definitely check it out. And yeah, we'll have to do this again sometime.
Yeah, absolutely. But maybe more, I'll interview you and we'll get you writing and we'll talk about football. So maybe we should just do it off record and just chat.
Absolutely. We could definitely do that.
Sounds good, man. It was
All right, I'll
lovely
talk
to
to
meet
you
you.
soon.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, for sure.
Cheers, bud.